This is great. I see Rabbi Lieblich is already in the room. This is really, really amazing that we have him with us. Not only is he a principal, but he's actually a pioneer. He has been, well, here he is. I mean, he can tell us himself. Really nice. Ah, there he is.
All right.
Yeah, right. So, Rabbi Lieblich, for anyone who does not know who you are, I'm sure most people do, but there's always going to be that one person. I mean, you have a pretty big bio, but I was just telling Shaina, you're really a pioneer because you started a boys' high school. How many years ago?
It's 20 years ago.
Okay, 20 years ago. Nowadays, we have all these alternative types of high schools for these kids. Normal, great kids, but kids that just don't fit into the box. And you saw this need 20 years ago. And you didn't just see it and you didn't complain about what was going on, but you showed up, you stepped up, you made something happen. And not only did you do that, you went further and became a coach. So not only can you help the kids from the educational point, but you can help the parents help their kids. So
we're just so glad that you are here today because I feel like you fit right into what Danit and I's vision is for the future of education and relationships with parents and their children. And so we're so excited to have you here. We really would love to just jump right in and ask you a million questions.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
so
thank you for being here.
So what I would love to know is 20 years ago, we're not going to ask you your age, but why don't you tell us how you decided to just start? It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
How did you decide to start a boys' high school? Like, people were not doing that back then. Back then, you had like your couple of schools. That was it. Those were your options.
Right.
Tell us.
So yeah, I mean, I sort of like fell into it. It wasn't, I mean, at that time, I never dreamt that I would be running a yeshiva. I started off as a learning teacher in camp and then a dorm counselor and then, mashgiach and zal. And I noticed something that if the boys liked me, then they would learn with me and they enjoyed the learning.
Wow.
And everything clicked at that point that if I can have a masifta where the boys like the staff and there isn't this constant battle, if they can just, be friends, I'm not friends with the staff, but if they can, like the staff, they can get along, if they can have a relationship, students will do anything. They'll learn, they'll come on time, they'll be happy, they'll grow. And that's really how people grow. If you think back to, moments in our life where we grew, there was some person that inspired us, someone that we liked. There was a role model. There was someone out there that we're like, we want to do that. We want to be like that. We like this person, want to emulate. And that's really, I mean, if we're jumping right in, that's really what chinuch is. Chinuch is really simple. And the way I put it, there's just really two steps that you need for chinuch, and this is for parents, this is for teachers. It's really two simple steps, which is number one, to be a role model and a proper role model. And the second thing is to have a relationship. If you have those two, your kids are going to be fine. For the most, things can happen along the way. There are some bumps and bruises. There's some traumas that come up. There are some things that happen to some children. But for the average child, if you're a role model and you have a relationship, your kids will want to give you nafas. Your kids want to make you happy. The example I give is, every 3-year-old boy, at some point, to age 2 or 3, put a towel over his head and went to the wall and started davening. Every 3-year-old girl, at some point, put a towel over her head, was wearing a tefal and lighting Shabbos candles. Children want to give nafas. Children want to be like their parents. They want to do that if they have a relationship. So that's really the 2 points that I just teach parents over and over is be who you want your children to be and love them and connect with them, and they'll want to copy you. It's really, just those 2 principles.
It sounds so easy. So maybe answer this for me. What challenges did you face when you started opening up the school? Because I can imagine, the schools today are not having this kind of mindset. So what kind of challenges did you face when you tried to open up the school?
Well, people are afraid. People are scared. Today, it's not like that anymore. But back then, people were afraid. It's a different type of school. We had less hours. We ended at 7 o'clock, which is even at 7 o'clock is late. We ended at 7:00, and we only had night Seder twice a week till 8:30. So just that was I mean, just the scheduling was a shift. The whole style of learning, style of learning we changed. We changed what we teach. We changed how we teach it. More interactive. We focus on mastery. What we realized, I mean, what I realized, even for myself, is that, I mean, Gemara, you can learn Gemara, and if I don't understand it, if I don't master it, I'm not going to enjoy it. And we can just, teach, and I've seen students get, 90s, 100s in their tests. If they know, I mean, they don't know what they're, unfortunately. So it was about mastery, that if they master the material and they connect with it, that they enjoy it, and they'll stay with it, and they're going to stick with it for life. It was about mastering the material. It was about a relationship, about having fun in school, bringing in more excitement and more fun and more activities. I mean, the kids need it. They're sitting in class from 7:30. I mean, this is the boys' high schools. They're in class from 7:30 till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. That's 12, 13 hours in school. It's a long day. Some boys can handle it. The other, 30, 35% they can handle it, but the other 65, I mean, it's really difficult.
How many boys are in your yeshiva?
Years we had 30 boys. That was our average over the past 20 years. Baruch Hashem. We also shifted the school. We went according to level, not according to age, which was just, I mean, it's a no-brainer. That I tell people that the only place that you get promoted based on how many years you're there is the post office. In school, you just get promoted based on how many years you're there. Now, I'm not getting into the whole idea whether or not it's good or it's not. Many things need to be taken into account. But just the idea that if the students are learning all day, shouldn't it be according to level?
Yes, sounds like that's no-brainer.
Right.
A lot of these are no-brainers, like simple, but like to implement it, it's not that easy.
The educators know it. They know it. It's having the courage to be able to do it. What I realized actually is interesting, but I realized that the shift happened by English. When I was speaking to parents about moving them based on leveling Gemara, that was like, they have to be according to level. But when it came to math, I never had a parent say, no, I want my child to be in Algebra 2 before learning Algebra 1.
Right.
It was like, my child has to, first learn basic math, pre-algebra, then algebra, then geometry. I mean, it was just a no-brainer that had to go according to level. And I never heard a parent say that. It's not fair. My 11th grader is going to be with my 9th grader. It was just obvious. If he's in 11th grade, but he doesn't know 9th grade math, he needs to be in 9th grade math. But when it came to the Kodesh, that's when people, and that's when it was like, why does it have to be like that? Why, why can't it be? That's just one idea. It was a learning. It's also the culture of a school. The culture of a school school is a place to grow. It's a place where children should be excited. They should be looking forward. Life to learn. Naturally, humans like learning. It's just the way it's taught and the whole culture of the school where it's the staff versus, and I'm not looking to put down schools, chas v'shalom, but it's just that we can shift the culture that we're on your team. We're here for you. We're here to help you. If you're struggling in class, how can I help you? It's not how can I punish you or, what can I, it's how can I help you? I'm on your team. We're here for you. You want to succeed. I want to help you succeed. That's really what,
So I have a lead up question. I have a question to follow up with that. I have a lot of questions for you.
We're going to be fighting over questions here.
I know. Okay, but I just want to ask one thing because you said something so imperative. You said children should be excited to go to school. What would you tell parents who are watching now or listening to this later? What would you tell a parent if your child is struggling to get up for school or fighting you every single day and it's a constant battle? What would you tell that parent?
The first thing is find out why. Something is going on. I mean, if a kid is miserable in school, it means they're miserable in school. I mean, that's what, if a kid is fighting every day not to go to school, it means that school is so painful that they would rather not be with their friends. They would rather not be learning. They would rather not be normal, quote unquote. Not not do what's culturally correct and to stay at home. So school must be that painful for them that they're willing to give up their friendship. They're willing to give up everything and stay home. So just to recognize the pain that these, kids are in and to find out what's happening. That would be the first step. Is it friends? Is it the learning? Is it the teacher? There are things going on that's just causing this child enough pain that he doesn't want to be there. Another thing I would say is be in touch with the teachers. Teachers should really be in touch with the parents, and teachers are in touch with the parents as much as they could. But from my experience, the parents that are in touch with the teachers, they get, the kids get better service. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
When the parents, well, it doesn't be, on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be harassing, not, overwhelming, but just checking in. What's happening? Teachers want to help. Teachers want to be there. That's why they're there. They're there for the students. They want to be there. They want to help. If you collaborate, it's a world of a difference. It really is. The first thing is just really recognize what the child is going through, and really recognize how painful it is for the child. If the child is not going to school, it's that painful. That would be the first step. The second step is to just find out what's going on. And then usually if you can collaborate with the teacher, but really be on top of it. It's not one phone call, but really be on top of it and follow up and see what's happening. Then that usually would resolve itself. Unless, something else is going on and you need, better intervention. But those would be the steps that I would take.
I have to say, it happens to be everybody, that both of my boys, one is in your school right now, another one graduated, and Baruch Hashem doing so well. And I got the honor of noticing something. One day, my son had an appointment, so I drove him to school and I dropped him off. Now, he was a couple of hours late. You didn't see me, but I saw you, Rabbi Lieblich. And my son got out of the car and he walked into the building, and you were walking into the building. You smiled at him and you were like, "Hey, Yassi, so good to see you. Guess what? We're going on a trip today." And I thought to myself, this is chinuch. This is education. You're the principal. You didn't say, "Where were you? Why are you late?" Right away, it was just like this really positive, so good to see you. I mean, when a child is welcomed like that, why wouldn't they want to be there? This is a place that they were just told how good it is to see them. And not only that, guess what? We're going on a trip today. We're going to have fun today. And I just thought, you're doing something right. You're doing something very right.
My idea of a school is not exactly, but almost like a Chabad house. A Chabad house culture it's a culture of growth. It's a culture of excitement. There is learning, but the focus of a Chabad house is to give a love for Yiddishkeit. The focus of the Chabad house is to give a love for learning. That's really the focus. And what's fascinating is that even though the focus is obviously teaching Torah and teaching mitzvahs, most shluchim spend most of their day just building relationships. That's what they do. Now, I'm not saying that teachers should be spending as much time building relationships as shluchim, but the environment and the culture is that they're here. They're there by force. Students don't want to be there for the most part. They don't want to be there. Chabad, they're coming willingly. So obviously it's different. But the culture is a culture of, we're happy that you came. We want you to be here. We're going to make it exciting. We're going to make it fun. We're going to build relationships. We want you to grow. We want you to want to learn. We want you to want to grow. And the focus is not that to discipline. The focus is to give you a love for Torah, a love for Yiddishkeit. What I find, crucial, that's in my training that I do for teachers. The first half of the training is really focused on this one point, that why are we teaching? Why are we here? And the reason we're here is to give a love for Torah. The reason we're here is to give a love for Yiddishkeit, not to teach Torah. And when you shift, when teachers shift that perspective, everything changes. Because if my goal is to teach Torah, then I'm creating my lessons according to, I want them to teach it. I want to teach it. I'm creating my discipline that I want them to learn, my tests. The culture is all, I have to transfer information into their brain. Whereas if the culture and if the desire is, I want to give them a love for learning, then it's a whole different thinking. Okay, so I want my students to love learning. Now what do I do? How do I inspire a love for learning? And everything shifts. It's not how do I get them to keep Yiddishkeit, how do I get them to want to keep Yiddishkeit? That shift of perspective changes everything. It changes the way we discipline. It changes the way we, lesson plan. It changes the way we interact with our students. It changes the culture, more trips, more excitement, more. It's just, the goal is not to teach Torah. The goal is to give a love for Torah. The goal is not to teach them Yiddishkeit. It's to give them a love for Yiddishkeit. And just that shift changes everything.
Wow. And this could also be applied for as parents, right? For parents as well.
Yeah. I mean, to developing our workshop, parents had the same model. It's not exactly the same because teachers go into education with a goal, whereas parents have children just because we have children. We get married because we get married.
Why not? Right.
But really, if parents can have the same perspective that Hashem gave me a beautiful neshama, and the reason I have this child is to raise him as a from Jew, to raise him as a from Yid with a love for Tin, a love for Yiddishkeit, and just thinking, how can I do that? What do I need to do to give my child a love for Yiddishkeit?
I think that's
and really
a question. That's a big question that I probably think every parent in the world wants to know. How do you make Yiddish? How do you show children how beautiful it is without making it? This is a tough generation we're dealing with. It really, really is, as teachers and as parents. And you've got quite the job.
Really, I'll tell you, chinuch, the way I see it, chinuch really is until 12 years old. About 12, 13 years old. By the time a child is already 12, 15 years old, they sort of know their place in the world, and they know who they want to be and how they want to be.
Yeah.
So the steering in the direction is really until then. After 12 years old, there's really, it's just modeling and loving them, and they'll want to follow. Now, how to give a love for Yiddishkeit. And somebody once had told me, it's an interesting line. I don't know, I'm in the audience, Democrats, Republicans, but I've never had somebody come to me and say, I'm really nervous that my child is going to vote for Biden and not for Trump. And why is that? Because in a home where they believe in Trump and they're so passionate about Trump and Biden speaks, they make fun of Biden, let's say, and they're just living it, and they're, the whole, and the environment of the home is, then the parents are brought up with that. The children are,
Right.
Right. Like, it's just going to happen. When a child is brought up from a young age, really from a young age, I mean, when they're just born, and they see the culture, they see the environment in the house. I mean, Pesach is a perfect example. Parents all had off. We were home with our kids. So what
yes, we were.
What did we do in our free time? In our free time, well, we watching the news, or did the father grab a sefer? Was he learning in his free time, or was watching the news in the free time? What we do in our free time tells our children what's important to us. There's another example that children learn what's valuable and what's important to us. They learn our morals. They learn what's correct on the way we act and on the words that we say. For example, a child is lying in bed. It's 10 o'clock at night. The child is exhausted, but they forgot to bring Nagelwasser. And the mother looks at the child and says, you forgot to bring Nagelwasser. It's okay. It's 10 o'clock at night. Go to bed. It's fine. You'll watch Nagelwasser in the morning. No harm done. Let's say the next night, it's 10 o'clock at night. The child is exhausted. He forgot to brush his teeth. And the mother says, you get out of bed and go brush your teeth. What did the child learn?
Brushing teeth is a non-negotiable.
Brushing teeth is not negotiable. Nagelwasser, you can. So really, children learn from us what's important to us. They know what's important to us. Parents really talk to. We preach to our kids way too much. We lecture them and we tell them what's important. They know what's important. They know because if it's important to us, they know what's important to us. They know what's important to them. Just by living it, excited, by loving Yiddishkeit, loving, every mitzvah we have an opportunity. I don't have to do a mitzvah. I get to do a mitzvah. I don't put on tefillin. I get to put on tefillin. I don't have to daven. I get to daven. So when we have that attitude, kids learn it and they feel it. Now you need the second ingredient. They have to like you, because they can work. They have to like you. They really have to feel close to you, and they have to want to give you nachas. And children naturally want to do that. Just think about it. For a child to go off the derech, as they spoke, off the derech, just think about the trauma and the pain that this child has to go through before he becomes not religious. He's fighting with his parents. He's fighting with his teachers. He's fighting with his principal, getting kicked out of class on a regular basis, kicked out of school, the drama that goes on in the house, the fighting, the stress. No child wants that. So if a child is doing that, they're in such pain that they would rather have the pain of going off the derech and all the drama of being ostracized, of being thrown out of the community and being looked at. They would rather go through all that pain than experience the pain that they're feeling of, being from, so really kids want to behave. Kids want to do what's right. Every child, I mean, almost without exception, when they start second grade, even if, let's say, first grade was a hard year, when they start second grade, they're going the first day, they're excited. And they're looking forward. Excited, I'm learning Chumash. And then the next year, I'm learning Mishnayos. And they're excited to, they're looking forward. I'm so big, I'm learning Mishnayos. They come the first day, they're learning Mishnayos. Or, if it's math or English or writing, spelling, they're excited. And then something happens along the way. They're struggling. So we can either beat them into shape, we can force them, or we can understand, hey, what's going on? What are you struggling? Yeah, well, ignore. Or just, hey, I see you're struggling. What's happening? How can I help? They want to succeed. Children come in the first day excited to go to school. They want to grow. They look forward to growing. But then when they struggle, our job as educators is to help them. And that's really what an educator is. The job of an educator is not to just transfer information. That's not the job of an educator. The job of an educator is when a child is struggling, how can I help you grow? How can I help you overcome this challenge?
Right. We're not here to stuff information down their throats.
Right.
Wow.
It's a lot. And what you said about having your kids like you, that's a big one. That's a big one because you don't want to be your child's friend. That's not our job. But it's very easy to love your children. But sometimes it's hard to like them because sometimes you have similar personalities, right? I'm sure there's kids that remind you of yourself or of your spouse. You're just like your father, Yeah. And sometimes it's hard. So it is so much work on our part as an educator, as a parent, because it's really our responsibility to facilitate that relationship. It's not their responsibility. They're little, they're kids, right?
So you really went to a whole different, that's a whole other topic. I'm not going to speak about it. So I'll tell you how it started. I started off in the Masifta. I'm there for high school. I'm there for 20 years. But over the years, working with teenagers, there was more than just befriending them. There was, the boys that were struggling, you can befriend them, you can build a relationship, and they do well. But there were some boys that were really struggling, and that brings us into a whole different discussion about trauma and pain and all of that. And that's when I started, training in trauma, breathwork, somatic therapy, and things like that, emotion code, and some other coaching that I do. Just because I wanted to help my students, overcome whatever struggles they're going through. What I realized, after working with students for a number of years, is that it's really not even the students that are, the students that are really struggling, but it's the parents that need the help.
Yeah.
A lot of the trauma that's going on, a lot of the challenges are really coming from home. Our challenge obviously in school, but a lot of it was coming from home, and that's when I started getting into coaching parents. What I found interesting, they say that many times that our children are like us, and we're like, you see yourself in your child. One of the things that I do with parents that are really struggling with connecting with their child is that the first question I always ask is, what's your relationship with your parents? And that you, when they're having a hard, when they're struggling connecting with their child, I ask them, okay, so what was your relationship with your parents? And that's when usually the floodgate. So that's really when the work starts. So part of the work is that I can bring the parent to remember what it was like when they were a child and what they needed, the abandonment and the neglect, and what they, when they were a small boy or a small girl, how they wish their parents were there for them. And if they can really, embody and connect into their pain when they were a child, and then just transfer it to their child. Your child is struggling as well. Your child needs you. You needed a mother that was there for you. You needed a mother that really hugged you and loved you and listened to you and cared for you, and you never had that. Or your father was never home. You felt neglected. Your father had no connection with you, and you were yearning for that connection. You wanted to connect with your father. You wanted your father to acknowledge you. You wanted your father to notice you. Your child needs that from you now.
Well, let me ask you, how can a parent give something that they never received? Is this their own work that they have to do? This is something that they have to realize and they have to work on, I assume.
That's usually that's usually where it goes.
Usually I find that the parents that are struggling with their children, they want me to fix their child. Well, can you guarantee they're going to go to school? If I hire you, can you promise me that you're going to get her to go to school?
Right.
And I'm always, I'm not a magician, but we can work on you. Let's work on what our reactions, and let's work on our connection. And it's so fascinating, because every parent every parent has struggled with their child at some point, or it could be one, it could be two, sometimes it's none. That's a great, kudos. But at the end of the day, it boils down to the work within ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're our kids, if we can really be there for them. You mentioned about, we all love our children. Do we like them? Children know if we like them or not.
Yes.
People. Yeah. Humans.
If we like our child, one of the ways I, just sort of give the idea for parents to like their children, ask them, everyone else likes your child. When your child goes to someone else's house for a Shabbos meal, they all love him.
Yes.
They all love him. He or she is so charming, and they're so friendly.
So helpful.
And that's such a they're incredible people. And that's sort of, that sometimes shifts the, perspective that, people do see them in a whole different light. Maybe I can also see them in that light.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
They really see connecting when parents can connect with their own pain, when parents can connect with their own child, how they were, how lonely they felt, and how abandoned they felt, and how neglected, and how all they wanted was just to be cared for. All they wanted to is really to be loved, and they can then see their child in that light. The hearts melt. That's what I find happens. They really they look at their child in a whole new light. Like, this is my child. I don't want my child to go through what I went through. I want to be there for my child.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to say to your child, I love you. We all say, I love you, but how often do we say, I really like you? When do we say it?
Right. Children feel it. Do we like hanging out with them? Do we want to be with them? Do we enjoy talking to them? Do we want to, about their day? Do we want to hear about their day? Are we curious about it? And if a child says they have a big exam coming up tomorrow, and the next day they come back from school, and the first question you ask, how was your exam? That that shows that we really take an interest in them, and we really care about them, not just because they're my child, but I'm really interested in you as a person.
And this affects everything. It affects everything. I mean, just as a coach myself, very often people call me and say, can you recommend a therapist for my child? And I say, no problem. I can recommend plenty of therapists for different kids, but your kid will go to the therapist. But whatever the dynamics between you and your child, or you and your husband, or the family dynamics, if that doesn't change, you can send your kid. And even if things are relatively functional, if a kid is struggling, if things don't change at home, you could send your kid to therapy from today till tomorrow. The kid's going to come home to those same struggles and the same triggers, and you can't expect a kid to it doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's why you need it from the top down. From us. It really starts here.
Yeah. When parents ask me for therapists, I used to tell them that I have two really good therapists, and I'll send them their number. Because that's what children need. I learned it the hard way, but saying I'm not going to do it. But really, I've met some parents that are pretty dysfunctional, some homes that are pretty dysfunctional, and it amazed me how the children want their parents, and they want to connect with their parents. Yeah. No matter what kind of parents, no matter who their parents are, they can be really dysfunctional at the highest level, but they want to connect with their parents more than anything else. Parents are the best therapists. But parents know, they really nurture that child. They raise the child. They know their child better than anyone else, and they can really help them. And the therapist will only help them connect. The therapist will help them, connect with their parents. When parents come to me, to ask them, with their child, I can help them with their child. So I tell them, I'm going to tell your child one of two things: either to help the relationship, or to drop you as a parent. You have a chance to really where it's going to go. I'm going to tell your child that I'm going to help them, try to repair the relationship. But if you're not available, I'm going to teach them how to cope without parents. Some people like hearing that.
No.
But they need to.
They need to hear that, because if you're going to send your child to me, I'm going to have to help them cope, either with parents or without parents. But parents want to be there for their kids. Parents really, where I find that is I mean, a few things. Parents don't know that there's help. They're unaware. Well, we really need to make aware. Just parents should know that there is help out there. There are people out there that could help them. And there's no shame. There's no shame in reaching out for help. There are people out there that want to help. People have tried it. There are proven methods. There are techniques. You know, people go to business coach, they go to health coach, fitness coach. You know, why not parenting coach?
It's the most important, in my opinion, because each child is their own world. They're a whole world, and if we don't have those tools, we're losing out. We, the parents, are losing out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so simple. It is so simple. It's like doing the tiniest little things that can help us connect to our kids. Like people, you know, we think that it's so complicated and it's so hard, but you know, Rabbi Lieblich, do you want to share like any techniques or anything that you've shared with parents that just come to the top of your mind?
It just came to my head. You know, one of the things, you know, men struggle with their sons, you know, teenage boys, is Ma'ariv, to get their son to go to Ma'ariv. And, you know, some homes, there are fights on a regular basis. You know, come out, we have to go to Ma'ariv at 9 o'clock at night. The kid's exhausted. If a parent has a relationship with their child and the father's like, hey, I'm going to Ma'ariv, the kid's like, hey, I'm coming. You know, it's natural. And if a mother's going shopping for Shabbos and the kids are home and they're bored, the kids want to go shopping with the mother. If the mother's in the kitchen and they get along and they have a relationship and the mother's in the kitchen cooking for Shabbos, kids naturally want to help. They want to be part of it. Right. So nothing has to be done. You don't. It's really simple. Once you get this idea, you don't have to do anything. It's natural. Kids will want to be like you. If you're sitting by the table and you're learning, your kids will want to learn with you. You know, if you're sitting reading a book, if you know, the mother and the father Shabbos afternoon are reading a book, the father is learning and the mother is reading a book, and the kids see that, kids will naturally, you know, they're gonna start reading. That's what they see. That's what's done.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Relationship is everything.
I'm thinking like my husband and I play sheshbesh on Shabbos afternoons, and that's like a big, you know, thing in our house, and it's become a thing. Like the kids love playing sheshbesh, and we have, you know, I'll play the winner. We have the championships, and it's like something so like, you know, like it's so not a big deal, but it's really like it's become this really fun thing in our house. And it's from you know, we never said, hey, who wants to play? You know, who wants to play with us? I guess it's just seeing what's going on and just setting the vibe, setting the tone.
Yeah. When I go shopping, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, when I go shopping for Shabbos, it's like there's a whole trail behind me because they all want to come. It's just that's like they just want to hang out. They just want to go. It's natural. You don't have to do anything. If you like your kids and your kids like you, they want to be with you, and they want to emulate you. They want to be like you. Now, if they don't like you,
let's go there. You have to ask why. Why don't they like you?
So I guess the first place I want to go is really, you know, if children are you know, struggling, if it's not going well. So the first thing is really to look at what's going on, what's happening in this child's life. Children naturally do not go off. Children naturally want to please. So it's really what's happening in this child's life, and it never happens, you know, overnight. There's, you know, things happen. You know, what's your relationship with your child? What's your husband's relationship with your child? What's your relationship between, you know, husband and wife? What's their relationship? That's another whole topic, but that's, I mean, crucial. You know, what's happening in school, relationship with the teacher? What's happening? Something is going on in this child's life. So if you can catch it early, then you're lucky. If you have a relationship, if you have that relationship and you can catch it early, then you save the child. If not, then there's a whole parsha of how to repair. Then it's already, you know, then the child is already at risk. And that's a whole different discussion. How do we help children that are at risk? And the first thing is, again, building a relationship.
And I think a lot of it has got to do with removing our own ego, because building a relationship, we have to humble ourselves. We have to humble ourselves because we have certain expectations and we have visions of what we want our kids to look like and to be like.
Yeah.
And it's very humbling.
Yes. Yes.
I always like to say, why is it about you? It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the child in front of us. And when we remove ourselves from that and purely have the child, their, being in mind and their progress and their I feel like the chances of success are much higher if we take ourselves out of the equation completely.
And it's also really also go back to the beginning when I started is what's the goal for this child? What do we want? What is the goal? Is the goal, that they should look a certain way? Or is the goal they should have a love for Yiddishkeit?
And a love for you.
Yeah. Also, any way, shape, or form. We forget this because of our, education system. We forget it. It's really a system. But the Jewish nation is a kaima aha shlema. We're a full body. Some of us are going to be the head. Some of us are going to be the heart. Some of us are going to be the right hand. Some of us are going to be the left hand. Some of us are going to be the feet. We're going to have the Rabbanim. We're going to have the ones that are going to be learning Torah. We're going to have the ones that are the hearts, the Isha Chesed. We're going to have the right hand, the ones that are Makarev. We're going to have the left hand, the ones that are in Shmira, and the ones that are, we're going to have the feet, those simple, Kabbalah Seil. We need, we're all one big body of the Jewish nation. Our system is built for the head. Our system isn't built for the whole body. And it's a crime. We're really focusing on just one part of the body, just on the head, and we look up to it, and we really strive to just focus on that one part of the body, which is just the head of the Jewish nation. We don't spend a lot of effort in our chinuch system really educating and inspiring. You're gonna have Yidden that are really warm, Hartzike Yidden, that are gonna daven and have a Avas Hashem, Avas Yisrael, really loving people. We don't really tap into that whole segment of the people, the right hand, the left hand, Kabbalah Seil, simple Jews. We don't tap into. Our whole chinuch system is only focused on the head parts.
Well,
and those,
and then you came along and you're changing it.
But those that are naturally, inclined to be the head, they're really suffering. They're really suffering. Kids, there are some children that are not meant to be in the class. We call it ADHD. We give it labels, but there are some kids that aren't able to retain information. Some kids aren't able to, keep, a whole back and forth of a Gemara. It's just they really struggle. So are we catering to that whole 70%? Again, I'm not, the head percentage-wise, but that's, there's a whole 70% of Klal Yisrael that we're not catering to, but that we're not uplifting, we're not inspiring, we're not really working to tap into their qualities and tap into their mission in this world. Whereas we used to...
Go ahead, sorry.
I was saying, we used to have that. We used to have, in Yaakov even, we had people that learned Mishnayos. We had people that just said Tehillim. We had simple Jews. We had people that worked hard and they supported Torah. We had people that, were wealthy people and they gave stuff and they supported, there's a whole body, we're an entire body, and our system, unfortunately, is really focusing on the head. And anyone who isn't part of the head, anyone who isn't excelling in the head, is they look down at their second class, and they really struggle. And we're losing a lot of those kids. Unfortunately, we're losing a lot of those kids, and they want to do well. They really want to do well, but they struggle.
So that's where my question comes in. My next question of, you're not considered mainstream, I'm using quotes for anyone who can't see, mainstream school. So whatever you've shared with us so far is not rocket science, and it's not anything that shouldn't be implemented in a regular chinuch school system. Nothing you're saying is out of the ordinary or special that's geared towards these children. This, I feel, it should be across the board. So how can you, who's done this, you have paved the way, how can we help, or how can schools implement what you're saying through the regular chinuch system so that we don't lose those kids?
And just keep in mind, we're talking about classrooms that have 30 kids in a classroom. We're talking about big schools over here. Schools that they're doing their best. A lot of change has happened.
I'll tell you, teachers, I respect teachers. They are the respect that I have for teachers. Part of this chinuch chat, Macham exchange, and somebody just posted if they can post the salaries of teachers, because they're looking into school what the average salaries are. So the most recent one they found was from, I think, 2017, 2018. The average salary was, I think, $49,000 a year or $52,000 a year. The highest was like 62,000. This was 5-6 years ago. It went up now to maybe 70,000. I mean, so anyone that's a teacher has my utmost respect. I mean, really my highest respect. They're underpaid, underappreciated,
Overworked.
overworked. The task they have is almost impossible. I mean, I was speaking to a second grade Rebbe, trying to give him some tips and trying to coach him. I mean, he was telling me he has 26 kids in his class, second graders. He said most of his energy has to be to just get them to stay in their seats quietly. And then on top of that, he has to also, give over information. And on top of that, he has to also give them a love for learning. And it's really, almost impossible. It's really difficult. What we need to have is really small classes, 15 students in a class. It's a crime. It's not the children's fault.
Right.
When you put them in 25, 26, I mean, high school, you told me about 30, 40 students in the class with, 8, 9 different teachers. It's really just transferring information. That's what's happening. It's just, I mean, it's not enough. It's just giving over information. You really need, it's going to take a lot of money, and it's going to really take a will. It's going to take a desire of people to really make change and to, I mean, they know the problems. They know it's not that they're not aware of it. It's just, it's not easy. It takes a lot to make it happen. I mean,
I think we know what needs to happen. It's not like, what should we do? I think it's very clear what the changes need to be, but just on a practical level, it's not that practical. Baruch Hashem, we do have a lot of schools that have opened up, much smaller schools.
Yeah, it's much easier. But with the larger school, I tell them is just always remember what's your goal. Your goal is they should love Torah. Your goal is they should love Yiddishkeit. That's the goal. So if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. Trying to,
minimal.
Not, but really, try to help them as much as possible. But have that in mind. You're here to give them a love for learning. You're here to give them a love for Torah, and that's why you're there. There was one who was telling me that he's very strict that the kids have to have their shirt tucked in, and that's his thing that the kids, and he doesn't like candies, and they have to sit in a certain way, and like that's not the focus. That's not what you're there for. That's you're not the focus. The focus is they should love Yiddishkeit. They should love you. They should be warm and care and excitement. That's what you want. If they learn, 50 psukim less this year, it's fine. If my daughter in high school has fun and she loves school, and instead of learning 500 Rashis by heart, she learns 450 Rashis, I'll be happy. That's fine.
A lot of Rashis.
A lot of Rashis.
I'm not like that's it's actually the last training that I had. I asked the teachers. I said, you had about 40 weeks of school, and you have a goal of, let's say, learning 15 pages of a Gemara. Let's say 100 Mishnahs. I asked them a simple question: if you took out 4 weeks of school, it's a large percentage. If you took out 4 weeks of school and did trips on those 4 weeks, you wasted a complete 4 weeks, obviously throughout the year, not just 4 weeks. But if you spread out 4 weeks of trips, would your class learn less, the same amount, or more? And every teacher they say more.
Right.
So in goal of learning, let's say 50 Mishnahs over the year, and you gave 4 out of, just living 4 weeks, if you took out 10%, that just gave them trips and fun and parties and made school a place where the kids want to go, the students would learn more, not less.
Right. And that falls into the same category as parents building experiences with their children.
Yeah.
Because when you build an experience with your child, they actually want to connect with you more. They want you in their lives more. They want to be around you more. And it's the same with learning. If you take your class to a trip, first of all, they're learning on the trip. Most of the time, they're gaining something, whether it's interpersonal skills, whether it's social, whether it's something on the trip itself. But then they're also learning about the teacher outside the classroom. They get to see their teacher outside the classroom. That's teaching. And then the next day they come back and they want to learn.
They said they just came to me, and I want to mention, I think it's important for people to hear. I had a student once, he was in 10th grade. He came to me for 1 year, and he really struggled that year. Towards the end of the year, when I was in a relationship, he mentions to me, son, But when I think it's important for parents to hear this. That year was a very hard year for him because his brother was having a bar mitzvah, and the parents wanted to take the family to Israel. It was going to cost them $40,000. So the father took on a second job. He was working late hours, and the mother was working extra to bring in the extra $40,000 that they can have a fun week in Israel. The child struggled the entire year because the parents and I'm not blaming them. Yeah, I'm the whole culture is that that's sort of the culture over here. But like they wanted to give them a memory of a week in Israel, but the child suffered a whole year.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
If the father was home during the year, creating a year of memories, how much more powerful? How much healthier would the child be? Like did and really get good attention. He was really sacrificing. He was working late hours, and I felt so bad. Like he was, in his mind, he was doing the right thing. He wanted to, he wanted to create memories for his child, but at what cost? The child suffered for a whole year. If the father was home every night with his child, in my opinion, that's more powerful than taking them for a week to Israel.
Right.
Wow.
Well,
Children need.
I'm saying, speaking of trips at school, we had a family simcha this year, and we had to go away. And my Yossi, who's in your school, he was so upset that we had to leave because you guys were going skiing. He's like, I'm going to miss skiing. I'm not going to be able to go because we have to go away. I'm like, I'm so sorry that we're going, to Florida and you're going to miss skiing, like it was just like a really funny, I'm like, wow, you have a kid who's like upset that he's missing school, that he, he doesn't want to leave because he's missing. But, I guess obviously everything has to be done properly, and spending time as a family with kids shouldn't be at the expense of our kids, like you said, in that type of situation.
If you ask the child, what would they want?
Right.
What's better for the children? Children want their parents. They want to connect with their parents. They want to be there with their parents. That's what they need.
Yeah.
That left another child. Look at this. A story just came to me. There's a child that was being thrown out of his house. He wasn't in my school. He came to me. It was on a Friday. He was friends with someone from my school. So he came just to, see my school. So I did like some somatic work with him. I did a session in my office. And the boy, 16-year-old boy, big kid, strong, macho kid, was crying. What came out is that he lived in a small apartment, really small apartment, and they moved into a larger house. The father took on extra work. The mother had to work extra. He had his own room. There was stress in the house. The mother was always stressed. The father, he said he misses those days when he was in that small building, in a small apartment. The family it was just the warmth. And this is a big kid, because of there's a lot went on over there. But he was crying that he misses those days when the family was united. Now it's like cold and stressed. He doesn't need the big house. That's not what he wanted. He wanted to have that family back. And it was so powerful. That's what kids need more than anything else. They want to be loved. They want to be cared for. They want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be noticed. Children want a warm family, a loving family. They don't need, extra. It's all nice. If somebody can do that, then do that. But what do kids really need? Kids need a mother and a father more than anything. And if they have that, they're going to be okay. They'll get over this, the trauma of not going to Israel with it. But they'll have those memories, that warmth and that loving family. That's more important than anything else.
And they won't feel abandoned during that entire year where they felt like they weren't seen or heard or had anyone to turn to.
It was just so sad to see that. It's really meant well. They really wanted to give their children, but I don't know if they realized, what their children were losing out, what they were losing out on.
Right. At the expense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sometimes we miss the mark. We miss the mark sometimes.
And it's interesting because I tell parents as well, to connect with your kid, you don't need to take them to Israel. You can walk them to school once a week, just the two of you, right? You could go sit on their bed before they go to sleep at night and just have a chat and just check in. It's like just going back to the beginning of this live.
Yeah.
It's the simple things
And
It's not. It's just no. Yeah.
they will want to give you nachas. I mean, guaranteed they will want to give you nachas. They know what you want. They know how you want them to behave. And if they feel close to you, they will want to give you nachas. They're going to want to do for you. They're going to want to make you happy.
Yeah. And it's very often if a parent, asks me to refer a therapist to them for their child, I say, does your child want a therapist? Like, does your child want to go for therapy? And they're like, no, but, he refuses, but I told him or her that if they don't go, then whatever.
Mhm.
And we don't realize, again, like you said, I'm going to do that from now on. I love that where a parent says, a good therapist for my child, and you give the mother and the father's phone number back to them. It's like, how about you do the work first,
But
and then if it doesn't work, we'll get back to the drawing board.
I want to say that it's hard work. It's hard work. It's really
So hard.
and hard. Yeah, those are the shalom bias, and that's even harder work. And it really goes into so many. It's hard work to really face your own challenges and your own struggles, and to come to terms with your child. It's just a lot of work. It's more work than the parent of the child, but the children will heal. Children will do well. When the parents do better, the children do better.
Oh, I love that.
That's a great line. That's a great
And it's
line.
true. It's true. When we put in the effort and we do the work and we work on ourselves and our own stuff and our own expectations, and we're just there for our kids and we just acknowledge them and we just love them and like them. We work on just getting to know them. They're not just people who live in our houses.
And by the way, sometimes therapy is a good thing for a child if they're asking.
Absolutely.
I'm not against therapy for kids,
Absolutely.
but it
Yeah.
can't be the solution, or they cannot be forced into it.
Sometimes therapy could be right. One of my children was struggling in school. We couldn't figure out what it was. They went for play therapy, and it was amazing how they did it. They had the child, build like a little whatever classroom on a Play-Doh, like the teacher seat and the child seat, and through that, a lot came out. The child sitting over here next to that child, and I was sitting next to that. Therapy helps. Therapy definitely could. Parents others don't have the tools, they don't have the know-how of finding us. There is definitely a place for therapy.
Yeah.
But the parents, when I find, especially when children get older, once they're older, it's the parents that need it many times.
Yeah.
And the parents, their children, parents, if they do the work and if they get help, they could be there for their child. Children want to, but what I'm saying about, just sitting by their bed. I think the parents that encourage them. Bedtime is a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a golden opportunity when your child is lying in bed and just dreaming or just remembering a day when things are calm, and you sit with them really any age, from 3 years old, 4 years old, to even teenagers,
Even more
just sitting by their
teenagers. I have older, and my 20-year-old still loves it.
they're sitting by their bed. That's when they talk. That's when they open up. There's no stress. There's undivided attention. You're not sitting with your phone checking. There's undivided attention. It's when they're dreaming. It's when they're thinking about the day, and so much comes out. I mean, really, you find out it's a golden opportunity to use, and it's a missed opportunity sometimes. But really, just sit there. How was your day? It's also, by the way, it's a time. If there's something you want to discuss with your child, that's a perfect time to do it. When they're lying in bed, today when you were so disrespectful, like what was going on? What happened? I noticed you were so rude. Like what? There's no stress. I'm not attacking this. It's just you want to hear, you want to talk, you want to find out. Like that. It's a time to discuss. It's a time to be open. It's a time to. There's a lot of sinners happening there at that time. It's really a time to connect. It's a really powerful bonding time because they're happy to talk because they want to stay up.
Exactly.
Oh,
So the longer you stay, the more they'll, they don't want you to leave.
yeah.
Unless it's a younger age.
Right.
It's really.
The younger ages for sure. Teenagers, maybe it depends on the boy or the girl. Gender definitely.
Teenagers, in my case, I just want to go to sleep already, and everyone comes and sits on my bed, and I'm like, guys, it's like
But teenagers, you need time when it's really calm and really relaxed. Like just, if you're driving in the car,
Right.
And there's nothing. That's a good time to start a conversation. Hey, I noticed this about you. I noticed something's going on. What's up?
Yeah.
Something I have to mention. It's so important. The way we ask is crucial. The difference between asking why or what. Like, why did you do something? You're attacking them. Or what happened? And being
What's going on?
really, what happened? Or, why did you hit your sister? Or what happened that you hit your sister? The wording, and it's also the feeling that comes is you're really curious. What happened? What's going on in your life? What's going on in your life that made you act a certain way?
Right.
Not why you act that way. When somebody, he asks, why did you come late? Or what happened that you came late?
Yeah.
Shifting that and that perspective. Wording is the word, but it's also the, feeling behind it.
Right.
You're not asking because you want to know what happened. Like, why did you, it's what happened. What's going on in your life?
Right.
What's going on?
Right. You're coming from a place of curiosity. You're not coming from a place of attacking.
Right. If you're really curious, if they sense that curiosity and you're not attacking, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just want to know what happened.
Right.
What anything,
And then you won't get the kids saying, but you're not listening to me.
Right.
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 Because when he asks that, then you're actually opening up the framework for a dialogue versus
Correct. And that's the connection. And that's your connection. And that, you want to talk to someone that you like, even if it's not a comfortable conversation. So it really brings it all back to exactly what you were speaking about in the beginning.
The more you have that conversation, they want to have a conversation. They want to do well. They want to explain themselves. If they did something wrong, they want to explain that. I mean, young age, 2 years old, why did you hit? Does he hit me first? Children want to explain. They don't want to be looked at as though they did something wrong. They want to have the opportunity. And if you're curious, but if you're coming really from curiosity, if you're curious, they want to share it.
Yeah.
So we have 2 minutes left. Is there any words of wisdom or any message that you would like to squeeze in these last 2 more minutes that we have with you?
Because sometimes Instagram cuts us right off. So we don't want it to cut off while you're...
So I'm really going to go back to the beginning because there's nothing more important than that. Be a role model. Be who you want your child. If you want your child to have limited phone time, limited screen time, you have limited screen time. Literally.
That's the hard. This one for sure.
But we expect our teenage boys and girls to only we're only giving you an hour on the phone. We're only giving you, 20 minutes on social media. But you're spending 2 hours on social media. Like, why? So you're teaching me that only children can spend 2 hours, only children have to spend 20 minutes, but once I'm an adult, I can spend 2 hours on social media or 4 hours on social media. Be the person you want your child to be.
I love that. I love that.
Be the person you want your child to be. And the second point is have a relationship. And if you have a relationship, they will be that person. But if you're not that person, they're not going to be that person. You can't just tell them what to do. You have to be that person. If you're a kind person, we yell at our kids to be nice, but we're not being nice. Or, we yell at the neighbor, or we, speak, it's a fancy word, but we speak bad about the neighbor and we put down the other person. And then we get frustrated when our child by dinner is making fun of their friend. But we just made fun of our friend. Why is it okay for you and it's not okay for someone else, for your child? So really be the person you want your child to be. Be that role model. Children will remember. Children, years after their parents, children, already adults, years after their parents pass away, they still, won't do certain things because their parents, it was important from
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
It comes from a deep respect.
Yeah.
So, when they really love it, and their parent was a role model, like my mother would never do that, and I want to do that as well. That lasts for a lifetime. So be the person you want your child to be, but really be that person. Don't just talk about it. Be that person and have a relationship, and your child will be okay. For the most part, trauma happens. They can be bullied. They can, things could happen to them, but for the most part, those are the two principles. You do that, it'll be okay.
I just thank you so many. Before we have to end up, I just want to say this was so insightful and empowering, and also very practical. I really love the practical tools and tips that you had. And I just want to wish you Hatzlacha with your school, and that I wish that you can come to LA. And I mean, maybe you do workshops here. I don't know, but maybe we can talk about bringing you here and putting you in touch with, you know, I just think that your message is so crucial.
And it could be done. It could be done. It could be done in schools. It could be done at homes. It really, and parents want it. Teachers want it. Teachers want it. Teachers don't want to just be in the class and just force feeding information. They want to be inspiration. They want to do that. They just need the know-how and the tools on how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was really, really, really special.
Yeah.
And Danit, it was great seeing you again. And I hope you'll come on again soon. Like I know that you know, this is we're in the beginning stages of this project that we're working on, and I really hope that we can, you know, invite you back one day.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.